I have a question.
Okay, I hear you.
Is 5.4 a part of test two?
Yes, this is the last section.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Yeah, and I sent y'all a bonus today. Um, so this 5.2 is one of the bonus questions, I believe. I mean 5.4 here. All right, y'all. So here we go. 5.4. And it's called complex rational expressions. All right, let me let one in real quick. Let's see what. All right, y'all. So for this section, there's only one formula we're going to look at, and this is called the difference quotient. So if you're taking business calculus or a class like that, you'll probably see this formula in your future. If you're taking statistics or another math, you probably won't. So the difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. Now in here, I won't get into a lot of detail about this formula. But I will say that it's sort of like a fancy slope formula. F of x plus h is like your y2. F of x is like your y1. So that's like your y2 minus y1. In the bottom, instead of saying x2 minus x1, they just use h, where h is the distance from the first x to the second x. So in the long run, it's just a fancy slope formula so that you can take the slope of curved lines versus only straight lines. So all we're going to do, the first step on working this formula is to figuring out what the f of x plus h part equals. They'll give us the f of x, and then all of that will be over h. So it's just sort of putting in the f of x plus h and then simplifying it down, okay? So I'm going to start out, they start out sort of mellow and then they increase in difficulty as we go through. So these will say construct and simplify the difference quotient. Y'all, so for number one, they're going to give us f of x is going to equal 7x minus 3. So that's the second part of the formula on top. That's the f of x they're giving us. So we're going to find f of x plus h. So for our f of x plus h, we take our f of x function, and wherever they have an x, we need to replace that with the the x plus h. So that'll give me 7 times x plus h, and then minus my 3. So now we need to simplify this, and then we're going to throw it into that formula. So only thing I can do to this, y'all, is get rid of my parentheses by distributing my 7. That'll give me 7x, and then 7 times h is a 7h, and then minus my 3. So now this is f of x plus h. We got f of x, so we're now ready to plug this into the formula. So now I'm going to put everything into the formula. So my f of x plus h will go first, minus my f of x. And like I said, all of that will be over h. So that gives me 7x plus 7h minus 3. That was my f of x plus h. My f of x was a 7x minus 3. So the first thing we want to do to this, we want to remove the parentheses on top. So the first parentheses, I can drop and bring those terms out. So I'll have 7x plus 7h minus 3. But y'all, the second parentheses is following subtraction. So remember, we have to distribute that subtraction so that I get a minus 7x. And then I get a minus -3. So there we have the double negative. That's going to make that a positive 3. All of this is over to h. So here we're going to remove parentheses like I said. Now at this step, we want to combine like terms on top. So y'all, you sort of see something happening once I start combining these like terms on top. You got a 7x, it adds to the negative 7x, but guess what? That 7x, negative 7x, when I combine them, cancel out. All right, I only got the 17h, but here I got a -3. When I add it to the positive 3, that -3, positive 3 are going to cancel out. You'll notice that every time you do this, everything that was in the second parentheses will cancel out at this point. The only terms that you'll have left on top are terms that contain a h in them. Y'all look at that. On top, I had a 7h. On the bottom, I got a 1h. So the final step, guess what? Those h's will cancel so that my final answer is 7. All right, y'all, so that is the difference quotient. So we'll be playing with some of these just like this, okay? All righty. The second one is just like the first one. They just change the numbers up. So we're going to zip down to number 3. On number 3, they're giving us f of x equals x squared plus 5. All right, so remember our formula, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So once again, the first thing we got to find is f of x plus h. So replace the x with the x plus h. That's going to give me a x plus h squared plus my 5. All right, y'all. So we're going to have to do something on the side here. I'm going to figure out what x plus h squared is on the side. And y'all listen, whatever you get here, I would make sure you keep that copied because every one of us will have to do x plus h squared, okay? So once we figure it out, we can keep it to throw in when we need it. So the x plus h squared will be x plus h times x plus h. So here we go. We got an x times x is x squared. X times h is a hx. I'm just putting mine in alphabetical order so that if I have like terms, it's easier to notice. So then I'll take this h times that x and get another hx. And y'all at the end is the h times the h, which gives us the h squared. So notice you got a 1hx and a 1hx. We can add them and make that a 2hx so that we get a x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. Save that for when you need it later. So now I can replace this x plus h squared with that. So I get x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. And remember at the end is my 5. All right, y'all, look at that. There are no like terms. So now we know we're ready to plug all this into the formula. And remember, all of that will be over to h. All right, so we put in the f of x plus h we just found. X squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 5. F of x they gave us, that was an x squared plus 5. All right, and when you get good at these, you'll notice that since everything's canceling out here, you can sort of cancel them at this point. But I'm actually going to rewrite it again. And remember, I'm going to distribute my negative through the second parentheses. So I'll bring the first stuff down. X squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 5. Then we got a minus x squared. And then a minus 5. All of that is over h. Now you also notice the x squared cancels with the negative x squared. Let's see, I had more. Okay, the 5 cancels with the negative 5. So notice, once again, the only things left have h's in them. So I have a 2hx plus a h squared all over h. All right, so here's what you got to realize on this problem. This h on the bottom of that fraction, it affects both parts on top. So that means you have to simplify both of the top parts with that bottom. So the 2hx, if you divide that first part by h, those h's would cancel. All that's going to be left is the 2x. Right here, you got an h squared, which is a h times h, divided by 1h. So one of the h's on top cancels with the one on the bottom, leaving you 1h on top. So y'all just treat it like exponents. I'm going to put ones by these h's that didn't have exponents. So here, 1 minus 1 left 0 h's. 2 minus 1 left me 1h. And then y'all, that would be final answer. So watch what we're having to do to these. We're finding this f of x plus h. We're canceling everything that does not have an h in it. And then we're taking an h away from everybody on top to get that final answer. Y'all got a question on these yet? So I'm not gonna lie, they're not too bad. You just gotta sort of keep up with all these H's in here, okay? All right, y'all, let me throw a bigger one at you. F of X will equal negative 3x squared plus 2x plus 3. So y'all notice f of x has two x's in it, so we got to replace both of those when we find our f of x plus h. So replace both x's with this, so I'll have negative 3 times x plus h squared plus 2 times x plus h, and then plus my 3. So f of x plus h looks pretty similar to f of x. You got negative 3 times a big x being squared plus 2 times that x plus 3. So they look the same other than those variables, okay? All right, y'all, so let's see. I got negative 3. We know what x plus h squared is. We got that right here. So we're just going to replace x plus h squared with that. So we got x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. Then I'm just going to bring everything else down for the moment. So all we did was replace the x plus h squared with what we did a while ago. Next, I would distribute the negative 3 through your first parentheses. And then I would distribute that positive 2 through the second parentheses and then bring down the 3. All right, y'all, so let's see. That's going to give us a negative 3x squared minus 6hx minus 3h squared. So that takes care of distributing that negative 3. Now we'll do the 2. So we got 2 times x is 2x. 2 times h is 2h. That takes care of them parentheses. And then at the end, bring down my 3. Now, what's sort of sad on this one is there are no like terms here. So since there's no like terms, we're ready to throw all this into our parentheses. So my f of x plus h minus my f of x, all of that will be over our h. All right, y'all, so let me put this in here. Negative 3x squared minus 6hx minus 3h squared plus 2x plus 2h plus the 3. F of x was up here, negative 3x squared plus 2x plus 3. So that's got a lot of stuff, but it's because we had to replace 2 x's up here, okay? But y'all, now we're going to distribute, drop the first parentheses, and then distribute our negative through all 3 of the second parentheses. So I got negative 3x squared minus 6hx minus 3h squared plus 2x plus 2h plus 3. So y'all, I want one of y'all to give me the next 3 terms on top.
Would it be positive 3x squared?
Okay, positive 3x squared.
Minus 2x minus 2.
Minus the 2x. And then say it one more time.
I think it's -3.
-3. There you go. All of that over our h. And you'll be able to tell at this point, because remember, everything over here that don't have an h is going to cancel over here. So that -3x squared cancels with that positive 3x squared y'all gave me. Let's see. This positive 2x cancels with that -2x. And then this positive 3 cancels with the -3. So good job, y'all. So all I got left is the 3 terms on top that had an h in them. We got a -6hx minus a 3h squared plus a 2h all over h. So do y'all want to try that final answer?
It said -6x minus 3h plus 2.
Well, you wrote that out pretty quick, but that's perfect. So the h's here canceled, got my -6x, good job. We had one h cancel here, leaving me the -3h. And then at the end, those h's canceled, leaving you the 2. Y'all, good job on that. So that's the trick, is watching your negative over here. And then everybody on top loses the h, okay? So guess what? We got the big one left. It don't look big, but I'll give y'all a second to write that one. But y'all will see why, okay? All right, y'all, let's try number 5, and that's the last one in this section, and then we'll start playing with our review. And y'all look at this, f of x is only going to be 2x to the third. So that means we're ready to find our f of x plus h. And that's going to equal what? 2 times our x plus h to the third power. So to FOIL this thing out, we're going to go to the side. Y'all, x plus h to the third, that's the x plus h times the x plus h times the x plus h. So I'm going to bring down the first x plus h. Now we already know what 2 of these will equal. 2 of those equaled what? X squared plus 2hx plus h squared. So that was from pulling 2 of them. Now I've got to multiply both of these x plus h's times everything in them parentheses. And I'm going to keep mine in alphabetical order, definitely in this section. So y'all answer this. What would an x times the x squared give us?
Would it be 2x squared?
X to the third.
X to the third. There you go. Remember, the only way you can change them numbers in front is if they had, as far as adding the numbers, would be addition instead of multiplying, okay? All right, now watch this. X times 2hx is a 2hx squared. So y'all, all I'm really doing when I'm multiplying this x is I'm just adding the x to everybody in here. And then the x times the h squared is a h squared x. So all 3 of these just added an x. Now all 3 of these are going to add that h. H times x squared is a hx squared. H times 2hx is a 2h squared x. And then at the end, h times h squared is a h to the third. Now, y'all, this one did have like terms. Let's see. We'll bring down our x to the third. You got 2hx squareds. They'll add to the 1hx squared. So that'll give us 3hx squareds. You got 1h squared x. That'll add to the 2h squared x's. That'll give us 3h squared x's. Now notice when I'm adding like terms, I'm only adding the ones where their exponents and variables match up perfectly, okay? And y'all had something else. Oh, I got to bring down my h to the third at the end. So y'all save that for when y'all got to figure out what x plus h to the third equals, okay? So we'll bring down our 2. We'll replace x plus h to the third with these 4 terms. So we got x to the third plus 3hx squared plus 3h squared x plus h to the third. So, ooh, that's a lot of work just to get that right there. So now my last step for f of x plus h, y'all, let's distribute that 2 through here. So we multiply everybody by the 2 because everything's in parentheses. So that's going to give me 2x to the third. 2 times 3 gives us 6hx squared. 2 times 3 gives me 6h squared x. And then 2 times h3 gives me a 2h to the third. So y'all guess what? We finally have f of x plus h. So I guess we're now ready to put f of x plus h minus f of x. All of that will be over h. All right, so let's put this in the first parentheses, 2x to the third plus 6hx squared plus 6h squared x plus 2h to the third. And y'all, sadly, I've only got one thing going in here, and that's my 2x to the third. So this one, since you've only got one thing being subtracted, at that point, we could just cancel them on this one because we don't have to worry about distributing the negative because it's only going to one thing. So this 2x to the third here cancels with this negative 2x to the third at the end. But I'll tell you the truth, I usually cancel them all at this point because we know everything in the second parentheses will cancel with its counterpart over here. All that'll ever be left after that step is these things up here with these h's in them. So y'all, you got a 6hx squared plus a 6h squared x plus 2h to the third. All of that over an h. All right, y'all, so give me my final answer.
Is it 6x squared plus 6hx plus 2h squared?
Ooh, you're all on a row, right? That's it. Perfect. There you go. Just take one of the h out of the top and be done with it, okay? All right, y'all. So questions on that? It's not too bad, like I said. Just find that f of x plus x plus h, put it in the formula, cancel, and then start canceling them h's. All righty, so that means we're about to start our test 2 review. All right, let me turn my paper over. All right, now this test has 20 questions on it. And your review quiz in MathLab will be the same thing as your test, okay? So for the first one, I want to know, is this even or odd? So they're going to give me a graph, my X and my Y. And on my graph, I got a little graph that both sides sort of come down and turn down. So is that even or odd? So
Even.
it is definitely even. Good job. Remember, they're even if you can flip it over to y-axis and it lands on itself, that's even. Odd is always symmetric to the origin. Okay, so even symmetric to the y, odd would be symmetric to the origin. All righty, describe how the graph can be obtained. So describe how the graph can be obtained. All right, so they're giving me a g of x equals x plus 4 squared minus a 1. So first of all, we got to tell it what we're starting with, which was one of those basic graphs we had. So we start with the basic graph of f of x equals blank. And then we'll talk about the shifts. So then it says shift blank 4 units and shift blank 1 unit. All right, so if you remember, there was basically 7 basic graphs we looked at. You had the x squared graph, the x graph, the x cubes, square roots, cube roots, the absolute value, and then the 1 over x. So since I got an exponent of 2 here, this would have been the x squared basic graph. So the question, here's the first blank. Shift it blank 4 units. So which way do I shift when I add 4 to the x when it's in them parentheses?
Would it be left?
Oh, good job. It is definitely left. So remember, the inside the parentheses is horizontal, left or right. If it's positive, it's left. And if they just subtracted, it was right. All right. And then how about this -1 at the end? What's that doing to me?
Would you shift it down?
It'll be down. Good job. All right. Then remember on this one, on MathLab, you got to choose the x squared tool. And then remember, it's going to pop open the controls. So you got to slide your horizontal to -4. So horizontal will go to -4. And then your vertical, you'll slide to -1. Once you slide them controls, it'll move the graph for you and be done. All right, 3 is the same thing. Describe how the graph can be obtained. So there's like 3 of these in a row. All right, y'all. So 3, they're giving me f of x equals the square root x minus 1. Now, this one, they actually tell me, they say, hey, start with g of x equals square root of x. So they're already telling you that the square root of x will be your basic graph. But then it says, then shift blank units. So you'll put the direction here and then how many units you're shifting it. All right, y'all. So once again, you're attacking that x with that -1, and you would always treat underneath this square root like all of that would be in parentheses. So knowing that, which way and how much is my graph shifting?
So would it be right? 1 unit, -1, or yeah.
Yep, you're good. Right 1 unit. That's perfect. Now this one will have 4 pictures. Now remember, the basic graph would have started in the center and sort of did a slow, gradual uphill. So since we went right 1 unit, we want to find the one that looks like it came a little bit right and then goes uphill. So they'll have one where they move it right, left, up, and down, okay? So they're going to put all 4 moves on there trying to mess y'all up on that. But go with what you got up here and move it and be done. All righty, so y'all, that gives us the next one. And the next one, they don't make us graph the next one, but they make us know all the moves on it. So this is number 4. So same thing, describe how the graph can be obtained. All right, we got g of x equals a negative, and then in parentheses, x minus 5 squared, and then plus 7. And guess what? They even tell you the graph we start with. We're going to start with h of x equals x squared. Then let's put what they got. Shift it blank units. Then reflect across the blank and shift it blank units. So they'll have pop-up words on this. You'll pick A, B, C, D. But their choices for the first blank are left 5, left 7, right 7, or right 5. What would you put in that blank? Left 5, left 7, right 7, or right 5?
I feel like it's right 5.
It's going to be right 5. Because remember, that 7 don't have nothing to do with left and right. Okay, only the 5 has something to do with the left and right. Okay, let's answer this one then. Then reflect it across the blank.
I may be wrong, but is it the x-axis?
It's always going to be the x-axis in this section. Now, they'll throw the y-axis at you, but remember, do not pick that y, because up until this point, we don't know how to reflect over the y-axis yet. All right, then shift it blank, up 5, down 5, up 7, down 7.
Up 7.
Up 7, good job. You know, after that was done, we didn't have to actually graph that one, okay? But y'all remember, x-axis is the only axis we have flipped across in this section, okay? All right, y'all. So number 5 says find the zeros. And they're giving me f of b equals b squared plus 9b plus 20. So I will say this. For number 5, you could factor this one or use your quad. Number 6, the only way you can do number 6 is by using the quad. So to find the zeros, we're going to take this and set it equal to 0. Now remember, another way you could do these, you could graph these and look for the x-intercepts, because if you graph it on your calculator, the x-intercepts are the zeros, okay? But y'all, I'm just going to factor this. Remember, b squared is a b and a b. That last sign is positive, so both of these will be positive, like the middle number. So all y'all got to do is find me factors of 20 that'll add to give me a 9.
5 and 4.
5 and 4. So now we've got it factored. To get the actual zeros, we set both of them equal to 0 and solve these. So basically, I'm just changing signs to get my zeros, okay? So I get b is a -5. And then over here, I get b equals a -4. Now, MATLAB, it'll say the 0 is our blank. All you got to do is put in your -5 and your -4. All right, so remember, number 5 will factor for you. Now, number 6, it might be a little different. So once again, we're going to find the zeros. All right, y'all, let's see what I got. I got f of x equals 4x squared minus the x plus a 9. So once again, set this equal to 0. Now, it also tells me if I get imaginary answers, I got to do that a plus bi form where I got to split them apart. Okay. So usually when I see this, on here they just say express complex numbers in terms of I. So that's what this is when you split them apart. So we're going to do the quad formula. So I need to figure out what my numbers are. So 4 for A, -1 for B, and C will be a +9. All right, remember quad formula was x equaled -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So I'm just going to plug everything into my formula now. So -b, which is a -1, plus or minus -1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 4, and c, which is 9. All of that over 2 times my A, which is 4. And y'all, if you remember, y'all done a few of these, all my work's going to be under that radical for a while, okay? Because this negative, all it did was made that -1 into a +1. So under my radical, -1 squared is -1 times -1 is 1. The right side only has one negative, so it will stay negative. Oh, let's see what we get, y'all. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 9, I think that is 144, I believe. And then on bottom, 2 times 4 is 8. So y'all, now the only thing I can do is work under here. So I got my 1 plus or minus. 1 minus 144 is a -143 all over 8. I'm going to bring that up to here and finish. So y'all, here's my question. I don't think we can do anything with that 143 under that radical, but there is something you got to do to that. And let me remind y'all, what we need to do has to deal with that negative.
Is it finding the I want to say the square root, but I don't know. I forgot what it's called.
Well, you could split that apart into like a square root of -1 times that square root of 143. But in the long run, let me remember. So we brought down to 1 plus or minus. So all I'm going to do is bring the I out and replace it with I. Y'all remember the little I? And then my 143, all of that over 8. So bring the I, the negative, out as a I. Because remember, on the side, you could have done that. You could have said, okay, I had a -143. So I write that as a -1 times 143. But remember, the -1 was your I. Okay. Y'all, radical does not simplify, but what we got to do, remember, is write it in terms of I. So you put the 1 over 8 first. Then you got your plus or minus. And then I'm just going to make this a square root of 143 over 8. And at the end, I'm going to put my I. Now, you could have put the I up here in front of the radical. Either way, it should take it. But when they say write in terms of I, that's what they want. They want the real part here. And then remember, this is the imaginary part, okay? Oh, all righty, y'all. So 5 factors, 6, you got to hit it with the quad. Now, let's see what I got for 7. So 7, I'm probably going to use my sheet real quick. But I don't know if y'all can see that good. No, so I'll draw this real quick. So 7 wants me to find the x-intercepts and the solutions. Now let me see what my chat says. All right, so question for me. All right, Jonathan, what's that question?
Yeah, so I might have missed this in one of the sessions, but why don't we just actually type out the square root of -143 and put the I at the end of it? Because, you know, it'll be 11.95 and the other digits.
Yeah, so, but here's the thing. That square root of 143, let me show you on my calculator here. So let me share my calculator. Although your calculator said it was 11 point something, that is not the total square root of it. So watch this. So I put that 143 in here. Now, it depends on how many decimal places you got your calculator set up. But Jonathan, watch this when I hit enter. It actually 11.9582607.4, and that's not even the whole answer. This thing goes on forever.
Okay.
So if we put 11.95 in it, we're doing what we call rounding it off.
So it's just basically a simplified way instead of
Right. So
okay.
so if they don't come out as a perfect square root and give me like a 10 or 11 without the decimal, then we cannot simplify these radicals since they go on forever. And the square root of 143, leaving it as that, they consider that the exact answer.
Okay.
Okay.
I also have something to say.
I hear you.
On number 6, Math Lab wants you to put it like, it doesn't want you to use the plus or minus sign. I found this out while doing the homework. It wants you to put it as like the plus and the minus. It wants you to write the plus in there and the minus.
So let me pull that up real quick. Because every time I've ever done that, it should have done it both ways. So let's go to C.
I don't know if it'll do it on yours, but every time I try doing it on mine, it counted it wrong because I didn't put it as a negative and a positive.
Oh wow, that's blowing my mind. Okay, so instead of me pulling this up, how about I'm gonna go back and investigate on that, okay?
Someone said mine too. So I
Do it
thought
now.
someone put it in the chat and said mine too.
Okay, so I see that, Stacy. So okay, so I'm gonna go test it real quick. Y'all done got me interested. So y'all let me pull up my math lab real quick.
Yeah, I meant to mention that last class, but it kind of slipped my mind until we did it today. So
All right, so I'm gonna pull up that. So that was actually in on the study guide review, right?
I believe so. It also was on the homework that we had. Like
Mhm.
I forgot the number, but yeah, it didn't
Yeah,
allow me
it would be the one that matched that sort of. So let me see here. So first, I'm gonna place it on my study guide review, and let's see, y'all. That was what, number 6 we said.
Yes.
All righty, so it's probably gonna give me a different number. All right, so let me find that for us. All right, so let me see. I'm gonna hit this one. All right, so I guess we can never have too many quad formula problems. So we're gonna do 6 again and see how this lets me put this in, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we got a 5x squared minus an x plus 9. We're gonna set all that equal to 0. So let's work it real quick and then we'll throw it in there and see what we get out of this. All right, so A is 5, B will be -1 again, and C will be 9. So they're giving me that -1 again in the middle. So I got a -1 plus or minus -1 squared minus 4 times that 5 times 9 all over 2 times the 5. All right, so -1 gives us a +1. Under our radical, -1 squared gives me 1. And then y'all look at that once again. I've only got one negative, so that's going to keep that negative. Well, let me see what I get. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 9 is 180. All of that over 2 times 5 is 10. All right, so 1 minus 180 gives me a negative 179 over 10. So I'm at the point where nothing's going to simplify other than I'm going to bring that negative out as my I. So that my answer will be 1 plus or minus square root of 179 over 10. And then you can put the I at the end of you can't put it under the radical, but you can put it at the end, or you could put the I right before that radical. So y'all, if I was going to break that apart, I'd have 1 over 10 plus or minus square root of 179 over 10, and then my I. So let's go see what happens. Because that's sad if MathLab's doing that to us, okay? All right, so I got a 1 over 10, so that'd be fraction, 1 on top, 10 on the bottom, then arrow right, get out from under there and put the plus or minus. And then I'm going to do the fraction again. On top, I had a square root of 179. On the bottom, I have my 10. And then I'm going to arrow out of that and put that little I down here. All right, so y'all's doing them like that, right?
Yes.
All right, so time of reckoning. So y'all, it liked it, so I'm trying to figure out what might have went wrong.
I have no clue, but on my math lab, it was making me put them in as a positive and as a negative. So I really don't know.
Yeah, because when you do a quadratic formula, typically you have to do the plus and the minus. So just curious as why you're not having to do it like that.
Well, this is 2 answers written with that plus or minus. I can consider this a 1/10 plus square root of 179 over 10I, or I can consider this a 1/10 minus square root of 179 over 10I. So y'all, if you're more comfortable, write it twice. I'm cool with that. If you did do the plus or minus and you had everything else correct, I can override those on the test, okay? And actually give credit for those if it marked it wrong and you had the right answer, okay?
Right.
Oh, so let me pull that back up because I can do number 7 right off of this. Y'all be able to see this. But y'all do the review, and if it does that on the review, let me know, and I'm going to look at the review and see what's happening. So, yeah, because y'all probably done changed them on that. So I'll look at your reviews if it does mark that wrong and see what you're doing wrong. All right, y'all. So here's the first question. They're giving me this graph of a function, quadratic. So what I want to know are my x-intercepts. And y'all notice you got 2 x-intercepts. So what would those be?
Would it be -1 and 4?
But remember, write those as ordered pairs.
Okay.
So that'd be what? -1, comma 0.
1, 0, and 4, 0.
And then 4, 0. So on the x-intercepts, you got to write those as the ordered pairs. Now on this part where it says the solutions are x equals, now you can do what you just said.
-1, 4. I'm sorry.
-1, 4, and be done with it, okay? All righty, then we'll check that. So we're good on that. So let me go back to my paper now. Okay, so throw that away. All right, so number 7. So we'll do at least one or two more of these. Oh no, this is number 8. We did number 7 on the graph just now. So I'm going to pull this up for y'all to read with me, and then we'll write down our information. So let me zoom in a second. So y'all, a wire is stretched from the ground to the top of an antenna tower. The wire is 35 feet long. The height of the tower is 7 feet greater than the distance D from the tower's base to the end of the wire. So they want us to find the distance D and then the height of our tower. All right, so let me unzoom. So we're going to work this one on our paper here. So first of all, I'm going to draw the tower here. So that's my tower. And then I got a wire stretched from a tower down to the ground. The first thing they told me was that this wire was 35 feet long. Then they said the height of this tower is 7 feet greater than the distance D from the tower's base right here to the end of this wire. They said this was your distance D. So how could we represent the tower using a D? So here's
D plus 7.
So D plus 7. Good job.
Could you also write it as 7 plus D?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
All righty. So once again, we got a right triangle, which means we get to use the A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And y'all, the only side we're picky about, remember, is this 35, which is that hypotenuse. That has to be your C.
I
And then,
have a question.
yeah, I hear you.
So in these question problem solvers, how, because there's so many of them that I kind of practice with, how do we know that it's supposed to be a right triangle based off of what information?
Because they're wanting you to know that since you got a tower going up here like this, and this is basically the ground, they're wanting you to realize that anytime they got a pole or a wall or something, that's going to be a right triangle has a corner like a page. So this is what we call a 90-degree angle down here.
Right, but I'm saying I didn't, I don't think that was represented, it's not represented in the question because it don't give you an actual triangle.
Oh, they're not going to tell you that it's a right triangle.
Right.
They want you to realize that since you got a tower and the ground, they want you to realize that that makes that right triangle. But no, they're not going to give you that away because they're not going to give it away that you got to use that Pythagorean theorem.
Right.
Just like the next one. The next one has a ladder leaning on a wall. So if this was your wall right here, and say you got a ladder leaning on it, well, guess what? They want you to realize that this bottom angle right here, since you're talking about the wall of a building and the ground, they want you to realize that that one's going to have one of them 90-degree angles also, okay?
Okay, well, maybe I'm making this too complicated. How am I supposed to know that's not a hypotenuse triangle?
Say again?
I said, how am I supposed to know that's always a right triangle, not like an isolated triangle or a hypotenuse triangle?
Well, I mean, the only thing to realize is just realize that this is 90-degree angle. I mean, back in the day, we had to use them, what's that protractor thing, that compass thing?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so they're just, for my two problems, number 8 and 9, just realize you're going to have a right triangle no matter what.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so that'll be the next one. So fill in for A, which is D. So I get a D squared. B is the D plus 7 squared. And C is going to be the 35 squared. Yeah, if it looks like the corner of a page, any kind of corner, then they're expecting y'all to realize it's one of these triangles, okay? All right, y'all, so the first part, we got to figure out what this d plus 7 squared is. So I'm going to do some side work. So remember, that's a d plus 7 times a d plus 7. So d times d is d squared. D times 7 is 7d. 7 times d is 7d. And then 7 times 7 is 49. Adding like terms in the middle, we get a d squared plus 14d plus our 49. So I'm going to replace this with that. So that I get a d squared plus a d squared plus 14d plus 49. Woo, y'all, let's see what that 35 times 35 is. What'd y'all get?
I have a question. Do you not add the squared on top of the 14d?
Oh no, because remember, a d plus a d stays a d.
Okay.
Only way you can get a d squared is when we're actually multiplying a d times a d to get that d squared, okay? But when you start adding, you can't change what your letters look like, only how many you have, okay? All right, y'all, so let me figure out what that 35 times 35 is going to be. So 35 squared. That's going to give us 1,225.
Can you go back to the paper right quick?
Oh, it should be showing the paper now, ain't it?
Okay, yes. Okay.
Yeah. I was just switching to figure out what that 35 times 35 equaled. All right, y'all, my next step would add these like terms here. So a d squared plus a d squared is a 2d squared plus 14d plus 49 equals my 1225. All right, so we got these d squared terms over here, so that makes this quadratic. So since it's quadratic, we need a 0 on this side. So to get a 0, you're going to subtract 1225 from both sides. All right, so we got 2d squared plus 14d. Let me borrow my calculator real quick and see what that's going to give me. So I got what 49 minus 1225. That gives me a negative 1176, all equal to 0. Now, I'm going to make these numbers a little bit smaller because every single term I got will divide by 2. So since I can divide all these by 2, I'm going to make my numbers a little smaller before I try to figure out my answer. So 2 divided by 2 gives me 1d squared. 14 divided by 2 gives me 7d. Let's see, 1176 divided by 2 gives me a 588. All that equal to 0. So you got two things you can do on this. You can try to factor that, or you can use the quadratic formula. At this point, that 588 is a big number to try to find factors of that give you a 7. So I'm just going to use the quad and get my 3 numbers. So A is 1, B will be 7, C will be that negative 588. I'm going to plug them into my quad. Negative B, which is a negative, times that positive 7. B squared will be 7 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, and C, which is a negative 588. All of that over 2 times A, which is 1. Oh, y'all, so bring down to negative 7. 7 squared is 49. This time I got 2 negatives on the right side being multiplied, so that's going to make that a positive. And y'all, let me see what 588 times 4 equals. That's going to be 2,352. All of that over that 2. All right, so let me bring that up to here. So I bring down my negative 7, plus or minus. I'm now going to add that together. So I got 49 and 2352. I get a positive 2,401. All of that over 2. So y'all, here's the question. What is the square root of 2,400? So let me go to my calculator. All right, so I'm taking the square root of 2,401.
It's 49.
And there you go, 49. Good job. So negative 7 plus or minus 49 over 2. So I'm going to get my first answer by doing negative 7 plus 49 over 2. I'm going to get my second answer by doing negative 7 minus 49 over 2. All right, so this one gives me 42 over 2. 42 over 2 reduces to 21. The second one gives me a negative 56 over 2, which gives me a negative 28. So y'all, here's my question. How long is D?
$21.
So it's got to be the 21. Remember, distance can't be negative. So when you use the quad and get a negative answer, cancel that negative answer out because distance has to be a positive number. So if D was 21, how tall is the tower?
28.
There you go, because you got 21 plus 7, which gives us 28. All right, so let me look at this real quick. All right, so I'd like to do at least 2 more. So let's knock out 9 and 10 real quick. So 9 won't be as bad. Number 9 right here says, let me zoom in again. So 9, the foot of an extension ladder is 5 feet from a wall. The height the ladder reaches on the wall and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. How long is the ladder? So I'm going to draw that picture again. So here's my wall. And I know I got a ladder leaning on it. So they told me the foot of this extension ladder is 5 feet from the wall. So I know this distance right here is 5 feet. Whoops, let me go back to my pad now that we're on it. There we go. All right, there we go. So here's my wall. Got my ladder leaning on it. And I know that this bottom of this ladder from the wall was 5 feet. Then they said the height the ladder reaches on the wall over here, and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. So if I let this side be X, what would the ladder be represented by if those are what we call consecutive integers?
X plus 1.
X plus 1. There you go. Now remember, once again, they want you to realize that the wall and the ground right here are making one of them right triangles. So we're going to have to use a squared plus b squared equals our c squared. The only side that's particular is this hypotenuse. Once again, has to be the c. So I'll let this be a, and that can be b. So a is 5, so that's going to give you 5 squared. B is x, so that's going to give you x squared. That's going to equal c, which is a x plus 1 squared. So we can figure out 5 squared. 5 times 5 gives you 25. Plus my x squared. All right, y'all, so let's do some side work real quick and figure out what x plus 1 squared will give us. So write it twice in FOIL. So x times x is an x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 1 times x is a 1x. And then 1 times 1 is a 1. Now remember, I'm adding those, so don't change how they look. Bring down your x squared. And then you got 1 plus 1x is 2x. And then at the end is my positive 1. So the right side becomes x squared plus 2x plus 1. So you're ready to start solving this. So since we got the x squared terms, we're going to try to get them on the same side. So I'm going to try to subtract this x squared, which means I got to subtract it on the other side. But y'all, every time you do the ladders, those x squareds are going to cancel out. All that's going to be left over here is the 25. That's going to equal the 2x plus 1. So this ladder one, the quadratic part cancels out. So all we got to do is now solve this for that x. So the plus 1 will subtract. That way I'm getting my x's by themselves. And then we'll divide both sides by 2. So y'all, looks like my x will be what? 24 divided by 2 is 12. So the question of the day, how long is my ladder?
12 foot.
Oh, what y'all just say?
Is it 12?
Well, 12 was my x, which was the side of the wall.
Oh, it'd be 13.
So it'll be 13. There you go. Because you got to take your x and add 1 and make that side 13. Okay. All righty. So I'm going to go to the picture again on my math lab. And we're on number 10. So let me go to 10 on this. All right, so we're giving you a picture up here. So on my picture, I want the ordered pair of what is my vertex. And y'all, guess what? They gave it to us, didn't they? So the vertex is that minimum or maximum point. So they gave you the point, which is 2, 3, close parentheses. So then the next question, the axis of symmetry. Now, what'll get you on that? You got to put the x equals. Whoops. So x equals. So y'all, what is the axis of symmetry?
Would it be 2?
X equals 2. Good job. So the x value gave me that. And then how about this one? What is the minimum or maximum value?
3.
And 3. So the line of symmetry has to have the x equals, but on the min and max value, you just put the number in and be done. All right, then we will check that and move to the next one. All right, so we're going to start next time at number 11. So we got at least halfway through this, so we're good. So let me see what my chat says. So Sean had it. Okay, so they want to wait after class. All righty, y'all. So let me stop my share. So we knock out half of this. Next class, we'll knock out the other half. And I'll probably get us a good start in 8.1 for test 3 material. All righty, y'all. So I'm going to quit my recording.